Hey guys, it's Jalen here from Team Building Infinity doing pros and cons on Buddyfight area. I know I haven't done the pros and cons in a while, and now I'm doing it on a goddamn simulator. What the hell am I thinking? But what I'm thinking is, since this has plentiful amount of cards that I can actually just look at, and you guys don't have to wonder what I'm talking about the entire time, you get to see it right here along with my face on the webcam down below. So what I'm proposing here is that if they have any cards that you want me to go over and they are in a simulator, because they do miss a few cards on here, but once they get them all, I can do any of them all. If you want me to go over a deck, any deck is here. I can show in a template. So if you want to see a deck, it's just easier. So I just propose this is a better way of doing pros and cons. If you guys want the old format, please tell me down in the comment section below. If you like it this way, please tell me. But this week I'm going to be doing Night Counter. Night Counter is a new card that came in set 5. Break to the Future. This card is very, very questionable based on like just a few quite notable things about it. But without further ado, I'm going to do my pros and cons of Night Counter. If you have trouble seeing this or something, this Night Counter is a counter spell for Dragon World. You may only cast this card when an opponent's size 2 or less monster attacks and you have a Dragonite on the field. Dragonite attribute. This can even mean, say you have a Dragonite set spell or Dragonite item. There's no Dragonite items as of now, but just saying for reference. And then it has a cast cost of pay 3 gauge, seems pretty hefty, but you'll learn pretty much later in the video why this isn't that bad. But it also has counter, like I said, destroy all opponents size 2 or less monsters on the field as destruction and a Dragonite. Alright. Immediate pro. This is a board wipe. Instant board wipe. 3 gauge, monster on board, you're being attacked. Easy as fuck. This is way too good for a counter destruction card. Now, what are people going to say about this? 3 gauge is way too much. This card is way too hard. You won't want to play multiple copies of this. You won't play 4. You shouldn't play 2. You should not even play this card. It costs too much. You need a Dragonite. Who's going to have a Dragonite? We all like Armor Dragons. Okay. First of all, Armor Dragons, they're kind of dying out because Dragonite's got so much good support that deck almost feels like obsolete compared to Dragonites. Second, this card's gauge cost is actually not even a con. I'm gonna tell you right here, it's a pro. What do you mean? 3 gauge is way too much. You've even gone over this with Seeger and other things. Okay, why is this different? Because Dragonites have this certain thing. It's called a drop zone fill up. The drop zone is where they settle how much shit they can do. If there's one Dragonite in the drop zone, they can call certain Dragonite cards. If they have 5 or more, they can use certain impacts, such as Cavalry Arts. If there's a plentiful amount of Dragonites in the drop zone, call Geronimo and start going ham. Napoleon. Do you see what I'm getting at here? Dragonites do shit with the drop zone. This 3 gauge is nothing because it's helping them even fill up the drop zone. They want the drop zone filled as many Dragonites as possible. So this card contributes to that. And it's a Dragonite in itself. So in one turn, by activating this, you board wipe, you get 4 Dragonite attributes, and you still keep your monster. I don't know about you, but I think that's a pro. Now, reasons why this card could be problematic. 1, if it gets nullified, you wasted 3 gauge. Now, I'm going to spoil this right here. That is the only con. Only con about this card. Having a Dragonite on board, people are going to argue, what if they use counter destruction to counter this and you don't have a Dragonite anymore? But first of all, you can't stop once this thing's been cast. If you have a Dragonite on board, say it's a monster, and it's only a monster, and they'd go, oh, I'll cast Dragonic Thunder. Like, say this is the situation. You have a Quixote on board, they attack of a monster. Then, you go for Night Counter. They destroy the Quixote with a Dragonic Thunder of some sort, or any kind of counter removal. Now people are gonna say, oh, you don't have the Dragonite anymore. You can't use this. No. Action of casting this, there was a Dragonite. So once the Dragonite was there and it was cast, it doesn't care about that clause anymore. This clause about having a Dragonite on the field only happens when it's cast. When this card is cast, you have to have one, and you have to be attacked by a size 2 or less monster from your opponent. But once that has happened, you don't care anymore. So you can't stop if you fucked up and attack the Dragonite while they have 3 gauge or more. So it is going to happen. This is definitely a really good card because it punishes your opponent for blindly doing something like attacking when this can happen. Now they have to be scared. Blue Dragon Shield contributes to this. Blue Dragon Shield right here. Blue Dragon Shield contributes to this card being able to be played even more. You have Quixote. You have Cavalry Dragon Hyperion. These cards fill up your gauge, and most of these are run at 4. So this card is easy to cast. Way too easy to cast in a Dragonite deck. The only cards that even cost gauge that they even run are cards such as their weapons, or with like his Cavalry Dragon, but that already pays for itself by killing monsters or doing damage. There's other cards that just gain you gauge, like I don't remember his name, but the Dragonite, when he dies, he goes to the gauge instead of the drop zone. There's Quixote, the Blue Dragon Shield, like I said, Knuckle, other secondary weapon. This card is easy as hell to cast. The only cards that even cost gauge are, like I said, Geronimo and the weapon. Geronimo, and it's such a good card anyway. It costs the same amount, and people play Geronimo at 4 and such. So why is this card simpler to that? It's a board wipe, and all it requires is the Dragonite. It can fill up your drop, and it's easy to cast, and it punishes your opponent. The only problem is when your opponent nullifies it. But in the same fact, you're just using up your gauge to build up your drop zone. Even if it's not, you say, didn't get any Dragonites in there. Okay, you lost 3 gauge. Big whoop. They lost 2 gauge, 2 life, or 3 gauge, depending on the spell nullifier of any world. So they're losing nearly as much as you are, but not as much, because you're actually still building up your drop zones, say, like, when this card gets nullified. This is the Dragonite attribute. You can use this to your advantage. So, this card, in my final verdict, is a very good card. 3 of at most, though. You don't have the means to always be having 3 gauge. What I mean by this card is really good, it's good in the hands of someone who can conserve amounts of gauge that you'll need. If you know how to conserve gauge, and you know when there's certain situations where you won't need to use any, this card is a great combat card. Your opponent will never see it coming. Even if they do, there's not many ways to avoid it. So this card is good in the hands of the right person, but I think this card is definitely worth playing in any Dragonite deck. Hope you guys like this video. Subscribe to TBIJalen for more Buddyfight content. If you want to see a new card or an old deck or new deck being shined upon in my pros and cons series, please leave them down in the comment section below. And anyway, guys, Jalen from TBIJalen going out.